How do you start a video? You just get on with it, don't you? Hello everyone, this is Nazuba here, and in this video I'm going to take a look back at two of my instant manifestation stories, and I'm going to dissect it to see what went into them. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a prompt, an exercise that you can do to remove some blockages that you might have for instant manifestation. All of these stories, unless otherwise mentioned, are my personal stories. These are me basically pressing button A of life to see what happens, and then button B of life to see what happens. And these are all culminations of what I have experientially learned. And the vocabulary that I now have is a result of my studies for the past 7 years, let's say, about the law of attraction and Neville Goddard and Thomas Troward, Eric Byrne, you name it, I've read it. So let's begin. The first story is when I was 21 years of age. And I've had a bumpy childhood. And at the age of 17, it kind of reached a peak and my system collapsed. So between the age of 17 and 21, I went through some serious trauma, and I was struggling with PTSD, which of course I didn't have any idea back then. I didn't even know what the word was. I was just trying to get on with life, and around that time it was time for me to go to university and start studying careers and stuff, and it was horrible. I would find myself in the corner of the room, just sitting there like sort of Asian squatting and hugging myself, so scared and crying. I was afraid to go out. I was afraid of men, and it was very difficult for me to carry on with my life. I was physically broken down. I didn't look like a girl, if you know what I mean. So it was horrible. But then my friend, he was a prolific reader. I mean, I met him by chance, and he saw this situation in me. Even though I was afraid of men, he was the one I wasn't afraid of. So we became friends, and he saw my situation. And he brought me some psychology books, and he told me I should read them. And I was not a reader back then. I hated books. And again, another trauma from school life where we were made to read horrible, boring, black and white, text-rich bullshit books which didn't make any sense and wasn't interesting. So I was done with books for life, or so I thought. So I wasn't reading them. They were just laying there in my house. A couple of months went by, and he saw one day that I hadn't touched those books. So he took the books away, and the next time he comes with 3 pages that he had photocopied, actually marked, and said, I implore you, I beg you, you don't have to read the book, just read from here to there. That was it. And I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. And then time went on. I still didn't find the inspiration to read. But there was this one hot Bangladeshi summer afternoon. It was scorching hot, it was humid, horrible. And I remember I felt curious. And I went ahead and picked up the pieces of paper and started reading. And here is this word for the first time in my life: PTSD, post-trauma stress disorder. And as I was just like, well, why did he give me this? But I continued reading. And in that page, And on that page, but you get my point. There were symptoms listed, and I ticked all the boxes. I have this, I have that, I have that, I have that. And in one moment, everything sort of made sense. It clicked. And I went, oh, so that's what I have. Okay. And I put the pages down, and that's it. I closed the book, closed the chapter, never had those symptoms anymore. So that was my first instant manifestation. And I had no idea about these metaphysical ideas back then. So I will dissect it later. But let's move on to the second story, where I had some ideas, meaning I knew about the law of attraction. I actually heard and started believing that you create your own reality, which was a great relief for me. And it was through Abraham Hicks. I had found Abraham Hicks at the end of 2019. So they talk about meditation. They talk a lot, like wake up and follow the sound of the fan or something boring to quiet your mind for 15 minutes. And I sort of took it on, and I got into a really good habit of meditating every morning. I would do it every morning. Wake up, make tea, get the cookies ready, sit down, meditate, listen to a fan sound on YouTube or a binaural beat or whatever, some boring sound for 15 minutes. And then I would just write on my journal or something, and then I'll just go about my day. That was my routine. And then my life started getting really, really good. And I was in Ukraine at that time, and I was living my best life. I was absolutely blissed out most of the time. And I'd never known this kind of happiness before in my life. So that was the first time in my life I became happy. Mind you, I wasn't filthy rich. I didn't have a boyfriend. I didn't really have much in life, but I was absolutely happy. So around like the 6th month, I started having this desire that I want to move to a new house, which I manifested, and that's another story for another time. And my meditation continues. And one day when I was in my new house, meditating and coming out of the meditation, I had this thought impulse. It was not even a fully formulated sentence thought. It's quite a priori and ineffable. It was almost like an impulse, which, if you translate into words, would say something like, wouldn't it be interesting if I became an actress right now? Out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I came out of the meditation happy. Didn't think much about it, so I picked up my telephone to check my messages, as I always do. And my friend, he is writing to immediately, he's typing. And I just went on my telephone and I see him typing on Telegram. He's like, they're looking for an English-speaking actress. Mind you guys, I was in Kiev, and not a lot of English-speaking gigs are available. So I was laughing. And he gave me the contacts, and I contacted the agency, or the production house. They asked me for a demo reel, and I had everything ready. Like, I had a DSLR camera and a tripod because I was making YouTube videos at that time. So I just made a reel talking about myself, and I just sent it to them. That's it. Next day, I'm an actress. Not a very good one, maybe, but that was an instant manifestation. I don't know if it could be more instant than that, and it was quite significant, as in it was not a cup of coffee or something like that. So if you take these two scenarios and dissect them, when I got curious about this, and I've been thinking about this, I noticed a couple of characteristics of instant manifestation. And I've seen this same kind of energetic presence in other areas of my life when I had instant manifestations. So let's dissect them. Let's talk about the acting gig first, and then I'll do the PTSD. This one was particularly easy because if you have read Neville, they talk about, he talks about the state akin to sleep. And that's when your logical mind or your ego mind is not active. Point is, you are in your I am awareness. It's above the ego level, and you're not pushing noodles, and you're not asking from lack. That's the main thing that characterizes this type of manifestation. Instead of asking from a lack, as in I don't have it, so that's why I am doing this so that I can have it, is still not a pure form of energy. The energy that I had present at that time was curiosity, playfulness, joy, wonder, It was like, I wonder, something like this. But that I am awareness, the state of awareness that you go into when you meditate, is such a high frequency. It has an enormous amount of power to collapse reality frames. And I'm using this phrase from the ideas of reality transurfing. Also quantum physics, it is talked about in quantum physics as well, the observer effect. Something similar to that, overly simplified. But so that is why everywhere, everybody who is talking about manifestation, they will talk about this state of being. And for ease of conversation, I will say the I am awareness or your source consciousness. Because that is where all the creation frequency lies. It's not in your ego, guys. Ego does not create realities. It can push, it can, it's just the cat. So what was I saying? Right. So the ego does not create. It does not have any power to create because it has a lot of hindrance frequencies like fear, lack, doubt, anything that that will stand in the way of, hi Dimcho, stand in the way of your manifestation. Hi. So that's one. But that's it. That's the easiest way to have an instant manifestation. But what happens is, if you now meditate to get to the point of consciousness to manifest something, you have already muddied the energy. You should do meditation for the sake of meditation, not because you're trying to manifest something, because then you're not there, you're still in the ego. You have an ulterior motive. That's something that makes people trip up a lot. Hope you're taking notes. Now, if we go back to the first one, my PTSD one, notice that I was not in my I am awareness. I wasn't at all at my highest point of consciousness, let's say. It was a very low frequency. I was downtrodden. I was defeated. I was angry. I was frustrated. I fucking had PTSD. What more can I say, right? But I still manifested the healing. So what gives, right? This is what gives. I was absolutely ready to dump my old life as if it was a bunch of stinking stinking, horrible, gorish pair of garbage bags. Very roundabout way of I dropped it like a hot potato, okay? I was absolutely done with it. And before that point, life sort of happened to me. I was young, I was little, I didn't know what I was doing, and people betrayed me and things happened. And I was just getting to the age where now, 18, 19, 21, 2021, now my life was just beginning. I was just being given, although not from my family, this was my chance to have a go at my own life with my own ideas and my own hands. So I was very not excited. That's what I was waiting for. Like when I had a hard childhood, I was just waiting to grow up. I was just waiting to just grow up and get out of this shit. So I had no attachment to my past identity. That is a very important piece of information. I had zero attachment. In fact, I was happy to just fucking let it go. And that's why it could happen so instantly, even though I was, technically speaking, coming from an ego's perspective. But see, what happens when we read a lot about metaphysics and spirituality, we kind of start losing part of our humanity, because there is a lot of misinformation out there which will tell you that you have to be positive, you have to keep your frequencies high, blah, 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 which doesn't make any sense, first of all. Secondly, it asks you to sacrifice your humanity in some sort of way. And when you feel what you're feeling, but you're trying to repress those feelings, and I made that mistake. I didn't understand what they were talking about. I thought negative emotions are bad, and I learned to repress my emotions, for which I had to pay dearly later on. But before all of this, remember, I only started studying metaphysics from the year at the end of 2019. Before that, I was just a girl with a lot of integrity. And she wasn't trying to please anybody. She just wanted to have a go at her own life. And she wasn't trying to be positive or anything like that. She was like, that's it, that's what happened, fine, drop it, whatever. I am determined to create my own life. I will do my best. I will do whatever I can to make the life that I think I deserve, that I can dream up. And as I grow older, what I have noticed is that I've become more attached to my identities, even though I have lost many parts of myself. I'm not the same girl that I was even like 2 years ago, even last year, even yesterday, who knows, like not the same person, but there have been big changes. And I am not the same person. So the difference is that little girl who dropped her past life just like that, she did not have any attachment. She was absolutely focused on what she wanted. So that's one. Absolute focus and readiness to take action on what she wants. But as we grow up, we get attached to the ideas of safety, security, blah, 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 fear, whatever. For me, back then, it was like whatever is in the unknown is good for me. Life cannot get worse than what I've faced. I don't care. It has to be good. I know it's better. Whatever it is out there is better than this. So I did not care if I had a roof over my head. I did not care if I could eat or not eat, or have money, not have money. I was just gonna go. If you have that kind of determination, nothing will stop you from achieving your goals. But if you get attached to your past identities, then we have a problem. As we grow older, I notice that we kind of start losing our integrity in different places. We tell ourselves things that we think are right, at the cost of our own satisfaction, at the cost of our own truth. We don't speak our truths. I know this because I have done this. So if you're saying that you want something really, really badly and it's not happening, one of two things is at play here. One is that you're not ready to let your old identity go. But you say, oh wow, why not? I hate it. I hate this situation. I want change. But remember this, we never keep anything in our lives if it is not benefiting us. Which means if a situation is in your life, you're keeping it, and you are keeping it since you are the creator of your reality 100%. You are keeping it because it is serving a purpose in your life. And the reason why I mentioned the matter of integrity is that we don't always allow ourselves to see what's going on. We become deceitful to our own selves. Especially if we know a lot about spirituality and metaphysics, we tend to get into that trap. And it takes a lot of courage to face those things. I'll give you an example. I'll take that PTSD example, right? So me going at my own life, trying to create my own life, would mean removing myself from everything that was around me, which meant I would have to take myself out of my father's care, and I was rebelling against him. Figure out how to make my own money, figure out a place to live in. And mind you, in Bangladesh, nobody gives you a house for rent if you're a girl and not married. Now I don't know what the situation is, but back then, 2009, I think, back then it wasn't a thing. I was probably a social norm breaker. And that meant facing serious social consequences. So if I said I hate my life and I want to change it, but I couldn't or I didn't, it would mean I'm afraid to lose the security. I'm afraid to face the scrutiny of society. It would mean I would be absolutely unsafe, because if somebody knew that I was a girl alone, I could be prey to a lot of different kinds of people. It was just a story of that country at that time, according to me. It wasn't a safe place. So had I not been absolutely ready to take the consequences of my choice, I would still choose the safety of my father's house, the ease of not having to find out my own ways of earning, figuring out all of those things by myself alone. I had nobody to talk to, nothing to do. I wouldn't be able to do those things. And I would continue to live in that situation being miserable. That's one. The other thing that could be happening is that you staying in that state of being, having the life that you have that you say you hate but you would like to change is serving somebody else's purpose, somebody else who you care about. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a parent you take care of, and you shooting for the stars, you going for the thing that you wanted it might mean that you would not be in the caretaker position of your parent anymore. And it would break down her identity, this dynamic that you are with your mother. And that's why, even if it hurts, you would not make the change. But it's different when you know that you're doing it for the sake of your mother. And it's different when you have no clue that you're basically deceiving yourself, saying that you want it, but you don't see this dynamic that is happening there. So a type of radical honesty and having the courage, the balls, the guts, the balls to look at your own bullshit is necessary if that is a situation that is happening. I'll give you another example. And this is something that I have read. Also a real life story, but not my story. It is from a person called Eric Pearl, Dr.Eric Pearl. He is a healer. He was a chiropractor turned healer. And he was, in this book, he talks about the story of how it all manifested in him, this technology, this healing modality with energy. I will link the book in the description. And one of his clients, she used to come with her husband, and she was on a wheelchair. She couldn't walk. And the first day when she was there, after their sessions, she started walking. And she wasn't marching, but she stood up. And with the help of other furniture, whatever, she was starting to walk on her own 2 feet. But to Mr. Pearl's surprise, her husband did not look happy. And, Dimchu, do you want something? What do you want? Maybe I have to give him some food. Come. Whoop. Dimchu says hi. Meow. So, I hope you're not going to show them your butt. Huh, Dimchu? Pretty. Okay, I'm going to move my camera over here and see if I can finish this video. Thank you, love. Thank you. So, hello, Dimchu. Okay, so where was I? Dr. Eric Pearl. Her husband was not happy. And she had another session the next day, which she didn't show up for. And a couple of weeks later, when she showed up, turns out that the reason that she came back on a wheelchair again. So sometimes we would make ourselves sick because we are protecting something. Turns out that the husband had a mistress, and the wife, the only way the wife could save the marriage or keep her husband was by being sick. Because then he would pity her or whatever. You know, I'm not judging or anything. We all do this. Like, I have made myself sick because I didn't believe that I deserved love just because, you know. So I had to make myself sick. I know people personally who play the role of sick, many symptoms, because that's the only way they believe that they can get love. It makes me sad from the people she wants to get love from. So the thing to notice here is that when we are out of integrity like that, when we are deceiving ourselves like that, we are getting breadcrumbs. We're not getting what we want anyway, but there is a payoff, of course, but it is not what we desire. For this couple in Dr. Pearl's story, she wanted love. Both of them probably wanted love, different kinds of lives, I don't know. But they both played this game to go about it in a roundabout way, to not disturb the system, to not disturb the status quo and keep it the way it is. And she was getting pity, but not love. She probably misplaced her desire on the marriage rather than the love, because in my understanding, love is more important than marriage contracts for anybody. So to see those kinds of deceitfulness, and to our own selves of all people, is not easy. So this is where you would have to really create the courage, find the courage in you to see in your own life where if you're doing deceitful things to yourselves. Recently, I wrote an article on my Substack about this when I realized I have been being a deceitful cunt. That's the name of the article, link in the description. When I realized that I have played those kinds of games, and it wasn't easy to admit and to write about it, but point is, if you see it, you can heal it. If you can admit that that's there, you at least now know this is where I have to target my focus. I'm not beating around the bushes. So these are the two things that can hinder your instant manifestation. And if you want to bypass all of this, you have to find that state of being that creates frames. And not always the easiest thing to do, not always the easiest thing to do. So I'm going to leave you with an exercise or an exploration prompt for you to write, for you to see if there are places in your life where you're out of integrity. If you're saying that you want something but you're not getting it, to see what it is that you're protecting. You're either benefiting yourself, you yourself have a payoff, or you're keeping yourself in that situation for the benefit of somebody else, which is also in turn a benefit to you, or you're just simply scared to disturb the status quo, right? And this question I learned from Ilan. The question is, how does this situation serve me? How is keeping myself in this situation serving me? I'm rephrasing, but it's the same question. What benefit am I getting by being this way? What benefit am I getting by being this way? Write down the question in your journal and then just start writing. Don't overthink it. Just start writing. Start writing whatever comes to your mind. It will take a little bit of time maybe, but it can also happen instantaneously. So I hope this video has provided some value for you. I will see you in the next video.